Few people talk about this, but the truth is uncomfortable. Spiritual gifts almost never appear when life is easy. They emerge in silence, in pain, in the feeling of not belonging. And maybe that explains why you've always felt different, too sensitive, too deep for this world. What's curious is that the world tried to convince you that this was a flaw, when in fact, it might be the clearest sign that you are one of God's chosen. Here's the paradox. The more you try to fit in, the further you drift from your spiritual gift. While everyone is chasing status, power, and validation, the chosen ones go through inner processes that no one sees. If you've ever felt like you carry something inside you but could never quite explain what it is, that's not confusion, it's spiritual awakening beginning to take place. In this video, you'll understand how to identify your spiritual gifts, why they are almost always born through pain, what signs most people ignore, and what changes when you finally accept who you are before God. And before we continue, tell me in the comments, do you feel something inside you awakening right now? Comment below, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. This content might answer questions you've carried for years. There's something curious about spiritual gifts that almost no one talks about. They rarely appear on sunny days. Most of the time, a spiritual gift begins to reveal itself in silence, when no one is watching, and especially when pain teaches more than any victory. God's chosen ones often go through phases where they feel invisible, overly sensitive, or out of place, like the world is operating on a different frequency. And no, that's not weakness. It's a sign of an ongoing spiritual awakening. Many people believe spiritual gifts appear in those who had easy, structured lives without major struggles, but the truth is almost the opposite. Spirituality deepens in those who had to mature early, who felt deeply, who learned to observe more than they spoke. The chosen ones are not shaped by comfort, but by inner confrontation. God works in the hidden, while the human ego seeks applause on the stage. And if you've made it this far, it's hardly by chance. Something inside you has already begun to awaken, even if you can't name it yet. Maybe it's a constant restlessness, an unusual sensitivity, or that strange feeling that there's something more waiting to be understood. This is just the beginning, because truly understanding what spiritual gifts are completely changes how you see yourself and position yourself in the world. When people hear about spiritual gifts, many imagine something distant, overly mystical, or reserved for a few special chosen ones. But in practice, a spiritual gift is much simpler and much deeper than that. It's an inner ability, a sensitivity born from the connection between awareness, purpose, and spirituality. It's not about religion itself, but about how a person perceives life, people, and themselves before God. It's important to separate things to avoid confusion. A spiritual gift is not a common talent, like singing well or being good with numbers, although they can sometimes coexist. It also has nothing to do with ego, power, or status, because the more inflated the ego, the more distorted and lost the gift becomes. God's chosen ones rarely feel superior. Instead, they carry an inner weight of responsibility, as if they were called to serve rather than to appear. Every spiritual gift carries a silent mission. It wasn't given to decorate the soul's resume, but to be used for something greater. People in spiritual awakening begin to realize that their spiritual gifts are not a reward, but a responsibility. And that's exactly where many get stuck, because accepting that responsibility changes the way you live, think, and position yourself, especially when the world doesn't understand it. One of the biggest blocks to spiritual gifts isn't lack of ability, but the fear of being different. From an early age, many people learn that being too sensitive, too intuitive, or too deep is a problem that needs fixing. The chosen ones end up trying to fit into molds that were never made for them, silencing their spiritual gift to avoid judgment. Slowly, spirituality gets pushed into a forgotten corner of life. There are also scars left by criticism, rejection, and invalidation from the past. Comments like, "That's all in your head," or "You feel too much," make people doubt their own perception. Instead of trusting what they feel, they disconnect from themselves to survive emotionally. This inner disconnection is one of the greatest obstacles to spiritual awakening because a gift needs listening, not denial. Add to that the overload of distractions in the modern world, and the picture is complete. Constant noise, comparisons, rush, endless stimulation, all of this pulls people away from the silence needed to recognize their spiritual gifts. As wise voices throughout history have said, the world teaches you to adapt, but the gift requires you to reveal yourself. And that revelation often begins when you stop running from who you are, something that becomes clearer as the signs start to appear. One of the most common signs among the chosen is above-average emotional sensitivity. People with spiritual gifts feel everything intensely: the environment, emotional climates, what goes unsaid. Sometimes they enter a place and instantly sense something is off, without any logical explanation. This kind of sensitivity isn't weakness, it's refined perception. In spiritual awakening, one learns that feeling deeply isn't a flaw, it's a tool. Another strong sign is intuition that rarely fails. This isn't guesswork, it's deep reading of reality. Those who carry a spiritual gift often have that inner voice that warns, guides, or prevents wrong decisions, and when it's ignored, regret comes quickly. Add to this a constant feeling of not belonging, as if no place ever feels fully like home. Many of God's chosen ones spend years feeling displaced until they realize they weren't born to fit in, but to open paths. There's also the ability to sense people and environments, an early attraction to spiritual topics, and deep pains that generated early maturity. It's no coincidence, where there was a wound, there was refinement. Finally, there's that almost inexplicable desire to help, guide, or heal, even without knowing how. When several of these signs appear together, they don't ask for applause, they ask for understanding. And that's where the search to understand the types of spiritual gifts truly begins. When someone begins to recognize the signs, an inevitable question arises: what is my spiritual gift after all? There are different forms of manifestation, and none is better or greater than another. The gift of intuition, for example, appears in people who perceive dangers, opportunities, and intentions before they become visible. The gift of discernment allows one to separate truth from appearance, very common among God's chosen. There's also the gift of emotional healing, found in those who naturally welcome, listen, and help others reorganize internally. Even without formal training, these people ease pain through presence and the right words at the right time. Others carry the gift of speech and guidance, translating chaos into clarity, or the gift of silence and presence, which transmits peace without explanation. In spirituality, not every gift makes noise. Some simply calm. There are also gifts connected to spiritual leadership and intercession, an energetic energy that seems to hold the environment. The most important point is this: you may have more than one spiritual gift, but there is always a dominant one, the one that shows up most strongly throughout life. Identifying it doesn't happen by chance. It happens through observation, experience, and awareness, especially when you look at where life tests you the most. One of the most honest ways to identify your main spiritual gift is to observe where life tests you the most. God's chosen ones are usually pressured exactly in the area where a gift is maturing. Those with leadership gifts face abandonment and early responsibility. Those with emotional healing gifts experience deep pain early on. Spiritual awakening begins when you understand that tests aren't punishment, they're silent training. Another essential point is to notice where people consistently seek you out. Do they ask for advice, comfort, direction? Do they trust you with secrets? This isn't random. A spiritual gift naturally manifests through service, even when the person tries to avoid it. Many say, I don't know how to help, yet help constantly without realizing it. God often confirms spiritual gifts through the needs around you. Finally, observe what exhausts you and fulfills you at the same time. It's paradoxical, but revealing. A gift demands energy, but it gives meaning. The phrase is simple, yet deep. Your gift is where you bled, but survived. What almost broke you, but made you more aware, holds valuable clues. Ignoring those clues is one of the most common mistakes of those who haven't yet learned to respect their calling. One of the most common errors that blocks spiritual gifts is the constant search for external validation. When a person needs others to confirm who they are, the spiritual gift loses strength because it's born from within, not from applause. God's chosen ones often get stuck when they try to prove themselves to the world instead of aligning with what God has already placed inside them. Spiritual awakening requires the courage to stand in who you are, even when no one claps. Another serious block is ignoring intuition. How many times did the inner voice warn you, yet you still chose the opposite path to please others, fit in, or rush outcomes? Wanting quick results also weakens spirituality, because spiritual gifts don't mature in haste. They require time, silence, and emotional maturity. Comparing your path with others only worsens this, because every gift has its own rhythm of development. There's also the most subtle error of all, trying to use the gift without emotional preparation. When wounds aren't healed, the gift becomes a burden, confusion, or even self-sabotage. Many chosen ones go through this until they understand that spiritual growth isn't just about activating gifts, it's about sustaining responsibility. And when that awareness arrives, something begins to change within. When someone accepts their spiritual gift, something subtle but powerful begins to organize inside. Decisions become clearer, not because life becomes easy, but because inner confusion fades. God's chosen ones make fewer impulsive mistakes and act more consciously. Spiritual awakening brings this sense of alignment, as if mind, heart, and spirituality finally start speaking the same language. Another striking effect is inner peace, not the kind that depends on everything being perfect, but the peace of knowing who you are and why you're here. Relationships change because the person stops accepting what doesn't align with their spiritual gift. Connections become more conscious, more genuine, and less rooted in approval or need. When someone aligns with their gift, they don't need to explain themselves as much. Their presence speaks. A clearer sense of direction also emerges. It doesn't mean having all the answers, but feeling that every step makes sense, even the hard ones. Spirituality stops being mere curiosity and becomes daily experience. And it's exactly here that a deeper calling arises, almost impossible to ignore. A call to act, take a stand, and assume what was entrusted to you from the beginning. There's a truth that God's chosen ones only understand after much inner resistance. The spiritual gift wasn't given to elevate the ego, but to align the soul. The more someone tries to run from this calling, the more life tightens, repeats cycles, and creates discomfort. Spiritual awakening doesn't arrive screaming. It insists in silence until you realize that ignoring the gift hurts more than accepting it. Accepting spiritual gifts doesn't mean becoming perfect, enlightened, or superior. It means taking responsibility for what you feel, perceive, and carry. God doesn't give gifts by accident, nor to decorate pretty speeches. He gives them to generate real impact, transformation, and awareness, first within, then outward. When this understanding arrives, something changes in how you walk, choose, and position yourself in the world. If this content spoke to you, don't treat it like just another video. Some messages don't ask for entertainment, they ask for action. Maybe this is the beginning of a phase where you stop hiding and start aligning with who you truly are. And that decision, even if silent, often becomes the turning point between merely surviving and finally awakening. If you feel this in your heart, comment, "I accept my gift." Now that you better understand how spiritual gifts work, the most important question isn't, "Do I have a gift?" but "What will I do with it from now on?" Knowledge without application becomes a burden. God's chosen ones are not called only to understand, but to act with awareness. Observe your life over the next few days. Where does your intuition speak louder? Where does your sensitivity show up? Where does God seem to push you even when you resist? Spiritual awakening doesn't happen all at once. It's built through small, daily choices. Choosing to listen to yourself more, choosing to respect your limits, choosing not to shrink to fit places that can't hold your spiritual gift. Here's the provocation. What in your life is misaligned because you haven't fully accepted who you are? Ignoring this has a high cost, but accepting it demands maturity and brings freedom. If this video brought you clarity, don't let it end here. Put at least one thing into practice today. Silence, observation, writing, prayer, introspection, anything that reconnects you with your spirituality. And now I want to hear from you. Which spiritual gift spoke to you the most today? Comment below, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and keep walking with us in this awakening process because your calling doesn't end here.